Not going alone, I'm going with Cynthia Zoni. This lesson is proudly brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. Welcome to today's lesson. Today we'll be looking at the economic geography and then the lesson objective. This is what we hope to achieve by the end of this lesson. We want you to have done revision on the work that you have started over the holidays and the work that you did over this week. We're looking at the structure of the economy. We're looking at the economic sectors. Under economic sectors, we look at the primary sector, we look at secondary sector, we look at tertiary sector and quaternary sector. Then we're going to look at contribution of each sector to the South African economy. We'll look at how each sector is contributing because different sectors will contribute differently to the economy of the country. Then what we need to do, you need to be able to do definition of the concepts that we are going to be studying, interpretation of value and contribution to the GNP and the GDP of the country. Look at how each sector is contributing. And then we're going to look at the employment, which is linked to different sectors, which sectors employ more people, which sectors employ lesser people. Then you have to be able to do interpretation based on the graphs and tables and maps that will be given to you, and you must be able to apply them in the context according to how the questions will be phrased. You should be able to use interpretation of statistical and graphical information. We will do some few activities relating to that to see how you expected to analyze the graphs, how you expected to analyze the tables in order to extract the information to answer the questions. And we're also going to look at some map work skills. We want you to be able to do map index, coordinate, and map reference. Now, let's start first with our structure of the economy. Simply, when we're speaking of the economy, we say economy of the country. So when we're looking at economy, we simply refer how poor or how rich the country is. So the economy simply refers to wealth. So the wealth could be a wealth of a country, the wealth could be a wealth of individual, the wealth of the province, and so forth. So the economy is influenced mainly, the economy of a country is influenced mainly by the dominant economic activities. What do we mean by that? Different sectors of the economy contribute differently because of the products and because of the services. So some sectors contribute more because of the high value of the products or high value of the services that they sell. And other sectors contribute lesser because of the low value of the products and low value of the services that they produce. So economic development will be higher for countries that are involved mainly in secondary and tertiary sectors. So if a country is to develop its economy higher, it must focus on secondary sector and on tertiary sector, because tertiary sector is providing services and services are more expensive, and secondary sector is providing goods and finished goods are more expensive than raw material. So if a country specializes with finished goods, not raw material, it's going to make more money. And if it specializes in services, it will also going to make more money because of the value of the services and the products that they are selling. Now let's look at the economic sectors. We have primary sector. You must be able to define primary sector because you can get this in long questions, you can get this in short questions. You can get this in multiple choice question where there is definition extracting raw material from the earth, or activities that involve taking natural resources from the earth. You can get this as definitions, and then you have to choose which one. Is it primary sector? Is it secondary sector? Is it tertiary sector or quaternary sector? So if you know the definition, you'll be able to choose the correct one from the multiple choice questions. Or you can get long questions that want you to define the concept primary sector, or you can get in any different ways that the question can be set. So you must know what primary sector is about. It is about extraction of raw material from the earth or from the earth surface. And then the examples of primary sector is farming, fishing, forestry, mining. This is simply the extraction of raw material. And as you can see, this is primary sector. It means now that this, when you remember when you're doing settlements, you said when you define settlements according to function, you said when you classify settlements according to function, we said rural settlements are the settlements that have that practices primary activities. We said rural settlements are unifunctional and they have primary activities. So all these activities, these primary activities, are usually practiced in rural settlements. So when we say a settlement is rural, how are we classifying it? We're classifying it according to the function. So that is where you find most of the primary activities, which is extraction of raw material. Then we have your secondary sector. You need to know the definition for secondary sector. How do you define secondary sector? You say secondary sector is a processing of raw material and manufacturing of finished goods. So that is a definition for secondary sector. You say it's a processing of raw material and manufacture, because when you process raw material, it means now you changing your milk into cheese. So you have put it through a process, and then, like we said at the beginning, the activities that the citizens of a country are involved in are going to determine the level of the development. So if a country is going to sell milk and the other country is going to sell cheese, the country that is selling cheese is going to make more money, and therefore it will have more economic development than the country that is selling milk, because milk is a raw material and milk is cheaper. So the development of a country, we said, it is influenced by what the country exports. If it exports services from tertiary sector and finished goods from secondary sector, the economy will grow. Or another definition, we say it is activities that involve the processing of raw material and manufacturing of goods. This is a concept. This is a concept. So why, when we say it is a concept, it means you don't have to memorize this definition. You just have to show that you understand what manufacturing is, what secondary sector is. This is not what you should cram and reproduce it as it is. It is a concept. It needs you to understand what it is. So examples of secondary sector will be your manufacturing of any product. It could be manufacturing of bread, it could be manufacturing of a vehicle, it could be a manufacturing of biscuits, it could be a manufacturing of a pen, of a book. So that is secondary sector. And then this manufacturing is taking place in factories or in industries. Also, you can look at construction. So if somebody is building a house, or somebody is building a road, constructing a road, so that is part of secondary sector. that is manufacturing, because they are making a product. The product can be a house, it can be a large product, or it can be a small product. So long as there is processing of a raw material into a finished good, we call that a secondary sector. And then secondary sector is where secondary sector is more dominantly found in urban settlements. Remember, we said urban settlements are multifunctional and they have more than one type of activity, which is secondary activities and tertiary activities. Now we go to tertiary activities. What is tertiary activities? Tertiary activities that deal with the supply of services. So when we're saying tertiary activities, we're talking about supply of services. It could be you go to the shop, you buy. It could be you go to the doctor, you get healed. It could be you get into a taxi that takes you from point A to point B. That is a service that you have received. You can receive electricity services, you can receive financial services, or any other professional service that can be given to you. So you have your health, you have education, tourism, recreation, entertainment, local government, police services, retail services, wholesale services, transport and communication. All these are regarded as services. So they fall under tertiary sector. And then this is also found in urban settlement. Remember, we said urban settlement are multifunctional. What do we mean by multifunctional? More than one type of activity, which is secondary and tertiary. Then we have the last sector, which is quaternary sector. What is quaternary sector? Quaternary sector simply refers to the activities that deal with information and research, e.g. your computer and information technology, your environmental management and your conservation. You're looking at your GIS. Your GIS is also an example of quaternary sector, because you can use your GIS to solve a problem. So what does GIS do? What does quaternary sector do? Quaternary sector, because it is advanced technology, it seeks to solve the problems of other sectors. Quaternary sector seeks to solve problems of other sectors. For an example, if you are a farmer and the products are not growing well, you need somebody to do research and check, why is this crop not growing? And then they check, the soil is not fertile. So what will then happen is that they will be manufacturing the fertilizers to make the soil more productive. So a quaternary sector is all about solving the problems from other sectors. As we have seen here, we have your research, computer and information technology, environmental management, conservation research, and all those. And then it is also mostly located in the urban settlement, where you get your research laboratories. However, your research laboratories could be located anywhere else, but they are dominantly found in urban area. But it is not only found there. They could be located anywhere else. Your research labs. And then this is an example of your primary sector. You have your farming there. You can see the farming there. This will be your crop farming. You have an example of fishing there, primary activities. You have forestry, which is planting of trees that can be used for a number of things. And then you'll be looking at also mining, which is also extraction. So when you're looking at all these activities here, the farming, fishing, forestry and mining is all about extraction of raw material. No processing is taking place here, and therefore the products that are produced here, are called raw material. They are not finished goods, and therefore they are going to fetch lesser amount of money when they are sold to customers inside the country or outside the country, and therefore they will contribute lesser to the growth and the development of a country. Then we have a whole secondary sector. Secondary sector, we said it is about manufacturing. So manufacturing can take place in actually it takes place in industries, and we have different types of industries that you could have. You have your light industries and you have your heavy industries. Now you need to know the characteristics and the difference between your heavy industries and your light industries, because that is where your manufacturing is going to be taking place. So you can see there's a vehicle there being manufactured, and there's buildings that is being constructed there, and there is also electricity generation that is taking place here. So this is all what we call secondary sector, because there is an end product that all these activities are going to provide at the end of the day. So we call this your secondary sector. And as I was saying, now you can look at this and ask yourself, this vehicle, is it manufactured in light industry or is manufactured in heavy industry? So we'll look at those type of industries in our next lesson when we're looking at industrial development and next week. Then there are your factories also that can be looked at for production as well. So this, when you're looking at this industry and look at this industry, you can see that this one is producing heavy products, because a vehicle is a very heavy product, you can't carry that. And this one, they are manufacturing clothes. So you can look at this as your heavy industry because they are producing heavy products, and this one you can look at it as a light industries because they are producing small products. So this is your industries, type of industries that you have there. And then you have what you call tertiary sector. Like we said, what is tertiary sector? Tertiary sector is simply provision of services. So examples of tertiary sector will be your health services, it will be your tourism, you want your tour guides, you want people to take you to places to see place. So this is an example of secondary sector. And then your transport sector is also a tertiary sector. And then you have lastly your wholesale or your retail. So this is your tertiary sector. These are the diagrams that are showing the sectors of the economy. Then you have quaternary sector. We said, what is quaternary sector? We have your computer and IT, and then this is example of your IT, your call centers, your telesales. Then you have your research areas, you have your data processing area, like your SARS, they will know who have paid what, where, and how. So this is at a higher level of technology. This is your advanced technology, and you can be also looking at your research. And then we said this is where the sector is very important to ensure that other sectors don't experience challenges. So this research center is the one that is solving the issues or the problems in other sectors. Now, let's look at the sectoral contribution of to South African economy. So each sector is contributing differently because each sector produces different value products. The products or the value of products from primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector vary. So now the sector that produces or that contribute most to the economy of a country will be tertiary sector. Why? Because tertiary sector is the one that is providing services. You can think of any product that you want to buy. For an example, you can talk of clothes. Let's make clothes for an example. The wool that is going to make a shirt, the wool that is used to make a t-shirt or pants or anything, it comes from primary sector. So when you take this wool, let's say for example you buy the wool for, let's say you buy the wool for 50 rands. You buy the wool for 50 rands. After buying the wool for 50 rands, you take the wool, you manufacture a shirt like the one that I'm wearing. Then from there you have a product. Then how much would you prefer to sell it? Now you sell it at 200 rand, where at the industry, from the factory where it is being manufactured, it is worth now 200 rands. Now when you go from the factory shop, from the factory where they are manufacturing it, you go it and buy it from the mall or from the shopping center. The very same shirt now could be worth around 700. So you see what has happened to the product. You see what has happened to the product as it was moving down from one sector of economy to another. So it is advisable for a country to be engaged or to be involved in manufacturing of goods, because you can see at secondary sector or in secondary sector the value of the wool has changed, because it is no longer wool. It has been turned now into a finished product at the industry. But a product from the industry will still be lower in cost than when it now goes to tertiary sector. It goes to the shop where it is now worth more than the initial. So you can see that from the wool of 50 rands, now the company here or the shop here, they have added the value of that product by about let's say 650. So when you're looking at this process, this is the process that we call beneficiation. We call this process beneficiation, whereby we add value to a product from one sector of economy to another. So when we're looking at now the sectoral contribution of these different sectors, you can see it is now advisable for the countries to be involved in tertiary, in manufacturing, because if the country is involved in manufacturing, we are going to say those countries are industrialized. The countries that involve mainly in secondary sector are mainly the countries that we call them industrialized. And then if you compare the economy of those highly industrialized countries, the countries like USA, the countries like China, you see that those countries are highly industrialized and they are not exporting raw material. They are importing raw material, but they are exporting finished goods. So which means now they export their goods from 200 up to 700. So that is why the economy is always growing, because they are exporting finished products. Okay, let's continue looking at the contribution of different sectors of economy. Now let's look at what we have here. We're looking at primary sector. Under primary sector, so it is very important. It is very important that you are able to interpret the graphs like this one. The examiner can ask you a question: what is the contribution of the primary sector? What is the contribution of the primary sector from the economy? So what must you do? You must look at all these blocks and choose which one are primary activities. Then you say agriculture is primary activities, mining is primary activities. Then you go around checking which other activities here fall under primary activities. Then you say you add agriculture and mining together, they give you what you call 10%. They give you 10%. So it is very important that when you do this topic, you are able to interpret and analyze the graphs. So because it might come like this. It might come like this, whereby you have to make your mind up which activities fall under primary activities by when you interpret the graph itself. So that is how the questions will come. So economic geography is one of the most practical content that one can handle. What you need to be careful. You need your interpretation and your analysis skill of data that is in front of you. If you are able to interpret the data well, you'll be able to respond to the questions. And we expect minimum of 40 marks out of 60. We need you to get minimum of 40 marks out of 60 when it comes to economic geography, because most of the questions there you will be having the answers in front of you, because they will be either in tables, in graphs, or some information will be on the extracts. So it is very important that you make sure that you prepare yourself very well on this part of the syllabus, because it is the one that gives you an advantage, like we are showing here. Okay, now let's continue. Those are the two activities that you find in primary sector. Now let's look at what is secondary sector. Also with secondary sector, you'll have to make up your mind and check what are the activities, which are the examples of the secondary sector. We're looking at manufacturing there, we're looking at construction, we're looking at the two. Now the examiner could ask you to give the percentage of primary sector or secondary sector, or a specific activity. You can say what is contribution of agriculture, or what is contribution of mining, or what is contribution of manufacturing. But it becomes too easy when you say that. So just to make it a little bit tricky, we say the sector, so that you have to choose. Now tertiary sector, we have now your electricity and water provision, we have your communication, then we have your financial and businesses, then you have your trade and accommodation, and you have your transport. So those will be the examples of tertiary sector that you can identify from this pie chart or pie graph. Now we continue with the contribution of the economic sector to the South African economy. Now, this is the most interesting questions. This is the most interesting questions. The importance of the economic sectors. The importance of the economic sectors. Dear learners, I will tell you, when it comes to economic geography, all sectors of economy, you'll find that you could give one answer to answer all of the questions that ask you about the importance. Let's say, for an example, your question says, what is the importance of farming? What is the importance of farming? One answer there is that it creates jobs. When the question says, what is the importance of fishing? It creates jobs. What is the importance of manufacturing? It creates jobs. What is the importance of tertiary sector? It creates jobs. So this is part of the geography topics that are very interesting, that could have one answer answering different questions. So let's look now at the importance of different sectors, but you must know that the sectors are so interlinked that the answers are also similar that you can give. Now let's say We're looking at the primary sector. We say the importance there is job creation. Now let's go to secondary sector. Do we have people working in secondary sector? It is also job creation. Now, the only difference is that this one, a primary sector will supply the raw material, but now secondary sector will change the raw material into finished goods. The other one supply raw material and secondary sector manufactures. But when it comes to all other importance, for you to be able to work in primary sector, you need some skills. So it results in skill development. In secondary sector, it results to skill development. So it's the same. They both create jobs. They both develop skills. So skill development this side, skill development this side. So for you to be able to transport the raw material from an industry, from the farm or from wherever you're producing them to an industry, you need roads, which is infrastructure development. And for you to be able to take the finished goods to the market, you need infrastructure. So you have infrastructure development on both sides. Industrial development. So the primary sector, which is the farming, fishing, forestry, mining. So this produces raw material that are going to be used to manufacture goods in industries. So they result in industrial development. So industries will now do what? They produce finished goods. They produce finished goods. But also again here, industrial development here, also it can also result in income. We can earn income here. As you can see here, finished goods bring more foreign income. Yes, they bring foreign income, but also we can also get foreign income. We can export our raw material as they are. We can export raw material as they are for other countries to manufacture products from them. So you can see we have foreign earning with primary sector, we have foreign earning in secondary sector. So the answers are the same. The answers are interlinked. Improvement of technology. So there is an improvement, like we said for earlier, that maybe the crops are not growing well. So you're going to need quaternary sector to improve the technology in order to produce resistant crops or to resistant livestock. So it improves in the development of technology. And then in the primary sector, and they have multiplier effect. Both have got multiplier effect. So when speaking of multiplier effect, it means now one industry is going to lead to the development of another. For an example, if I am a farmer, I am going to need an industry that makes tractors for me to be able to do my farming. So farming leads to the development of tractor industry. Farming leads to the development of fertilizer industry. So it leads to multiplier effect. So that is when one industry leads to the development of another. Now let's look at the secondary sector. Let's say, for an example, secondary sector, the industry is the industry that is manufacturing cornflakes. So what will be the multiplier effect? They manufacture cornflakes only, but the cornflakes must be packaged. So there's going to be an industry that develops boxes that are going to do packaging for those particular cornflakes. There's going to be another industry that is going to develop this industry that is going to make sure that the cornflakes boxes have got labels. And then there's going to be other companies that must also do marketing of the product. So that is what we mean by multiplier effect, when one industry leads to the development of another. So you can see these are the importance of the economic sectors. These are the importance of economic sectors. So in order to make your studying easier, you can just simply look at what is common in both of these sectors. You say job creation. So this is what you need to study, that sectors create jobs. So it can be any sector, they create jobs. Number 2, for foreign earnings. Foreign earnings in primary sector and foreign earning in secondary sectors. What is common? Skill development. Skill development on both sides, and then it also leads infrastructure development. So you don't need to study a lot of content that varies. Make your studying easier. Look at what is common with all the industries, and you reduce the amount of studying a lot of content, because you have 6 more subjects that you need to study. So what do you do now? You reduce the amount of content in geography that you are going to use. You're saying, okay, in terms of the importance of economic sectors, I'm going to learn 4. The longest geography question that you will get is the one that says in a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, and it says 4 times 2. So most of the facts that you might need to know for you to do well in your examination, you need maximum of 4 facts per subtopic. You need maximum of 4 answers per subtopic. So make your studying easier and interesting by choosing facts that you can use in more than one sector. Okay. Now